लड़ रहा है, पर याद रहे हमें बीमारी से लड़ना है, बीमार से नहीं। उनसे भेदभाव न करें, उनकी देखभाल करें।
Let's talk about something positive, guys. Enough of hearing this Corona ringtone. Let's do a new ownership review, and this time we'll be reviewing the big daddy of adventure tourers, the BMW 1200 GS. So this one is gonna be a really long-term ownership review. 42,000 kilometers of ownership, riding across the country in various terrains. So we'll be getting a very good perspective of what it takes to own a BMW 1200 GS. So before we head on to the review, I would like to thank all of you who have watched the last ownership review of the Ninja 1000. I think for a small channel like ours, we got decent level of engagement, and I could see from the comments a lot of people liked the review as well. So that's why I have decided to continue this series, and please continue to support us. Share the video as much as you can. For today's review, we have Preet with us. He is a owner of a BMW 1200 GS. Welcome Preet to the video.
Hi guys, my name is Preet Sharma, and I'm a GS rider. I ride a GS R1200. It's a 2012 model, and it's been a pleasure of coming on live channel of 23 rides.
Well, he has done 42,000 kilometers. So I would say 42,000 kilometers is good enough to get a very good ownership perspective. This will definitely give you a lot of information, this video, if you aspire to own a GS, specifically about the maintenance costs, the ownership experience and the brand experience. So that's the idea, Preet, and we'll encourage you to share as much inputs as you want, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with the basics first, Preet. It's a GS, it's an adventure tourer, but I would like to maybe understand what is your definition of riding. Has it been just always adventure touring, or you have also been into sports bikes and something like that? So give us an overview.
I have been riding for more than 10 years. I'm an active member of a group of Delhi Superbikers. So before this, I used to ride more of sports bikes, and particularly I was a huge fan. I'm still a huge fan for Hayabusa. So I have 3 Hayabusas, and besides that I have owned multiple brands like Ducati Monster and then Honda, and I had a Kawasaki Versys as well.
Okay.
So this is my second adventure bike that I have owned. How I personally started my my career in this adventure touring was particularly after I owned my first adventure bike, and that was Kawasaki Versys. So I owned Kawasaki Versys for about 2 years, and then I graduated to GS 1200 in 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I graduated to a GS 1200. This is actually a 2012 model. It's an air-cooled model, so it is the last to November 2012 model that was produced. And after that, they made it into a LC, which is a liquid-cooled model.
But what are the other options that came to your mind when you were making this purchase decision?
See, I did a lot of research while going in the market, and I had a few options. Multistrada, I looked into that 1200, and then Tiger, which is one of the main competitors for GS.
Right.
So I did ride those 2 options, but I don't know, like when you have a connection at the first glance, this was this bike. It just suited me a lot, and the moment I got onto the bike, it just I just felt a connection with that. So then I did a little bit of research online and everywhere. I did ride it for a few days, and rest is just history for me.
Something that a lot of people get confused about when they look at this segment is a lot of people love to have multiple cylinders on their machines, right?
Right.
And the options that you talked about, while the BMW and the Ducati would be twins, right? But the Tiger has a triple cylinder.
Right.
So with that beautiful symphony of the triple, that I think attracts a lot of buyers. So how did you manage to overcome that?
Coming onto a boxer engine, it's been a complete change for me. And the reason for that is that a boxer engine is tuned to a different set. It is a 2-stroke and then 4-cylinder, but it's a flat one, and it's lower to the center of gravity. You have a very lower end of the engine, and they give you a different torque set as compared to a 3 inline cylinder Tiger. So it's a complete torque set that you get on off-roading aspects, on off-roading trails.
I have ridden the GS, just did a test ride some time back.
Yeah.
And at that time I had a Versys 650.
Yeah.
And trust me, there is a lot of weight difference between the Versys. I think Versys is about 210.
Yeah.
And what is the weight of the GS?
It's 230.
230.
Yeah.
So that 20 kg of difference was
Right.
not something that I could feel.
Right.
I rode it from, I think, the Lutain's Motard showroom
Yeah.
to the DND toll and came back, and I could not feel the weight. I don't know. I was totally surprised by the center of gravity
Right.
that the machine has, and it felt very flickable considering the size that it has.
Yeah, because the basic reason is that the engines is placed down below. If you look at the Tiger Explorer, which is 1200 cc, if you look Multistrada, their engines placement is a little bit higher. And then the second advantage for this bike is that if you tip over, you always tip over at an angle, and it's very easy to pick it up. Like if you tip over a 1200 on a sandy patch, I have done that. My friend and me, we both got stuck last year in Mirak. And it was a complete sand patch for about like 40 kilometers. And the moment that Tiger 1200 just falls down and you have been riding for more than 6 hours and 7 hours, it's very difficult because you are drained out.
What do you think about the performance of the Boxer engine? So how many bhp does it churn out? What is the torque that it delivers? And although those are numbers, but how do you feel on road or on off-road? What is the feeling like?
This air-cooled model is actually 110 bhp, but the newer ones that are 1200 LC, which is a liquid-cooled, and so on, the 1250, which has just been launched last year onwards. So that they come around like 123 and 130 bhp, approximately that. So they have a more better power and better torque in terms of.
What is the top speed?
Top speed, see, they have mentioned it at 230 kilometers, but the top speed that I have touched is close to 210 something. In adventure bikes, top speed doesn't matter. You're not going to go on head on with a sports bike or something on Yamuna Expressway. These bikes are not meant for that.
Right.
These bikes are just meant for a good cruising speed on tarmac of like 130, 140 at max.
So you mentioned about cruising on highways, right?
Yeah.
So does this bike have cruise control being an old model?
No, this one doesn't have, but the LC models 2013 onwards, they all come with the cruising controls.
Okay. Was this the last model that came with the analog instrument cluster?
No,
Or after that?
2013 also had an analog, but they then graduated to a TFT LCD screen later on.
Okay, got it. So while riding on highways, one thing that I feel very important is the wind protection that you get.
Yeah.
So what is that like on the BMW? Especially, this is the stock screen that you are using?
Yeah, this is a stock screen. It's pretty old stock screen right now because I generally use it for off-roading. I prefer to remove the screen and to remove these mirrors when I'm doing a trail riding. For touring, I generally use a different touring screen which is a bit more higher. You can cruise pretty much around like 150 something very easily without any buffeting on the windscreen.
So since you talked about vibrations, let us also discuss about vibrations that you feel while riding. Being a twin, I understand it has its own character,
Right.
a little throaty note and a little bit of vibrations that come in compared to a triple.
Yes.
So what I want to ask is, while that is the character that most people love, after 42,000 kilometers, do you feel that you get to feel a little more of those vibrations? How has the machine aged over 4 years?
Now I particularly don't feel anything. The first 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers I used to say to myself, why such a good machine and such a good brand, and they have not been able to overcome those vibration aspects. But after 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers, it just grows on you, and you get addicted to this machine and to the build quality of this machine, because it's built to last. I've seen people overseas for the BMW GS riders who have done 2 or 3 lakh kilometers on GS, and these engines they don't go anywhere. It's built to last.
With a premium brand like BMW, you have, when you are out in the market, you were comparing it with the Ducati, you were comparing with the Triumph, but I believe BMW is more expensive than the other two options.
Yeah, that's right.
Were you able to identify what was the reason of the premium that BMW charges just beyond the logo that they put on the tank?
Okay, yeah, sure. I can answer that. See, there are two things that makes a GS apart, and one is a boxer engine, which is quite iconic and everyone knows about it. Second most important thing is the suspension part. Over here, these are the two shocks. Okay, so sometimes you get the inverted shocks. So the female shocks, they have a larger travel. The unique thing about GS is that they come with telelever suspension setup and a paralever. As I told you that there are three components. Like you have a shock, then the center strut, the spring. Okay, so this is one. Then you have this wishbone. If you see this, the arm over here, this is a wishbone. And then you have the normal forks. So you have the upstride forks and stuff like that on the normal ADV bikes as well. So this is a paralever. What does the paralever does is that it prevents the dive and it gives you a better stability. Similarly, what happens? They have a telelever. So if you come over here, this is a shaft drive on the 1200 and this is a telelever arm. So this is connected and with the chassis again, and the same concept. It's just there to prevent the dive and the front wheel to wash out and to provide the stability while you are doing off-roading and while you are doing hard braking. And then when we are talking about the safety, so we have the crash guards, the upper one, the lower one. I have wrapped them up with the a rope. Okay. Just to prevent damage. Yeah, prevent damage to them. So because I do a lot of trail riding. Yeah. And then you have the engine cylinder. This is the cylinder head. So this is the protection for the engine cylinder heads from the Touratech. And then you have the brake oil, this reserve, the cover for that. And you have the pentimeter cover and the same cylinder head. Apart from that, hand guards, you can use bark busters. These are the stock ones. So till now they are working good and fine. Mirrors. Yeah. So you can remove them easily. I particularly remove them because it's very easy for me. So I just unlock them from here and then just get rid of the mirrors. The touring screen, I get rid of it because I don't like to use it. Then I have these guards for the indicators, because when ultimately so when you fall down, so these are particularly more prone to just falling down and then breaking apart. But you have this grill cover, the headlight cover. Yeah.
With respect to the suspension, it is not an electronic suspension, right? This one?
Not this one, but
okay. But what sort of adjustability does it offer? Can it be tuned according to the riding conditions?
Yes, it can be tuned. Yeah, okay. It has a manual tuning for the suspension, but the newer ones, the LC liquid cooled models 2013 ones, they come with electronic suspension. Apart from that, you have this beak cover. This is from the Touratech. Then I modified my front guard to more of a motocross because it dissipates more.
Nice design there.
Yeah. So it is a motocross this thing I have added to the GS because it dissipates more of sand and mud. Yeah. So these are the things that I have actually added to my GS so far.
So when you are out touring, how do you mount the luggage? What sort of luggage system do you have?
I use a BMW Vario system. So they have a they come standard from the company itself. So these are the luggage hooks that come from the BMW. It's with the manufacturing unit.
Okay. So, inside this hook, right?
Yeah. So the Vario units, they just click inside and they just it's just very easy.
So it's a sort of a single click mechanism for taking out and putting
That's right. That's right.
Let's talk about maybe the riding position on the machine. Maybe if you can show us what sort of riding position you are in when you are munching miles over the day.
If your height is too much, then I would personally suggest you to get two risers. Okay.
This seems to be a very broad bike, at least from where you have to hug the tank with your knees.
Yeah.
It is always mentioned that a narrower bike helps you in terms of putting your feet flat on the ground, B, hugging it more tightly, because you essentially do not want that tension in your hand. The muscle that you put with the bike is through the knees. Is the width a problem for you?
See, I am a very short rider. I'm not that, my height is not that good. So I am just, a little bit more than 5'8". My feet don't touch on GS. My feet, I just touch the tip. I've just gotten used to it.
Right. Okay.
So it all depends upon the rider. How does he want it? If he's more comfortable, then it doesn't matter.
So you have made that connection essentially, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So what is the maximum number of kilometers that you have done during a day?
During a day, I have clocked around 1,046 or 45 kilometers to the Madhya Pradesh area.
So what sort of tires are you using on this machine?
So these are basically not that much of a hard off-roader. They are
Okay.
85 road and 15 off-roading only. These are Mezler's Tourans. They have a pretty good mileage on tarmac itself.
So I think a pair of these would be around 23, 24k. Is that correct? Or
Yeah,
more than
around
that?
around 25. Yeah,
25,
25.
25.
Yeah.
The sharp drive, I think one apprehension that I have is when you are, riding in regions like Ladakh and you're crossing a lot of, doing all those water crossings and driving in slush. So I think that it might pose some sort of a risk. So how do you tackle that fear? Is it a risk first of all?
Sand, muck, these things are not possible to see because it's very airlocked and it's very packed very well. But there is a concern, like if you do a lot of water crossings, if you do like you are doing Leh Ladakh, and if water crossings are very natural for you to do every day. You will be crossing 1 or 2 water crossings throughout your journey.
Yeah.
So what happens is that the water sometimes it just seeps into your shaft. And if you don't look after it, if you don't do maintenance, like if you're doing a 10-day or 12-day or 20 days tour, and after that if you're coming back and you're not showing this thing at your service center, and it just skips your mind, the moisture is there, it starts to rust. And that is the problem. If this thing happens, the rusting comes onto your linkages in the shaft, inside the shaft, it's a very expensive repair.
What does it take to maintain this BMW, right? What is the service cost? That is the $1 million question. After the initial bucket loads of money that one has to spend when you are buying the machine, what does it take? Or what do you think is an annual spend?
It is certainly a lot more expensive. I'll say Ducati and BMW, these two brands are comparatively, if you compare it with the Honda brand, these are more expensive to maintain. And especially if you break something, and it's not covered under warranty, or it's not covered under a zero-dep insurance. These things are very difficult to maintain and very expensive. So you need good coverage. You need to be always. BMW comes with these. Initially, if you buy a bike, they come with a 36 months warranty, and you have always an option to extend that warranty to a later year or stuff like that. The service is actually annually. It's just once. I'm sure the Tiger must be doing the
similar.
same.
One service per year.
Yeah, one service per year, and the cost for a general service maintenance is approximately anywhere close to 15,000.
Are there any specific major services per se during the service intervals? One of those, maybe for example in the Tiger, I think the 20,000 kilometer service is a major one where you have to clean those 3
throttle bodies.
Throttle bodies, maybe.
Yeah.
So that costs about 25,000. So do you have a major service?
Yeah,
that
major
costs a
service
bomb?
cost is around like 40k. 35 to 40k.
That's what we want to hear. You talked about 15k right now.
That is a normal service cost.
Okay.
It's a minor normal service plus the extra which comes as per the scheduling.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I told you that the shaft oil and the shaft maintenance and the throttle body cleaning and all those things that come at a specific interval, like 40,000 kilometers, you spend around like 40 to 50k approximately. You do a lot of checks in that. If you go close to lakh kilometer, which is very rare in the Indian market itself.
Yeah.
So of course the expenditure starts there. Then you have the comparison that Honda Africa Twin is a pretty much cheaper bike to maintain.
Yeah.
The whole point of maintaining a bike and keeping it for years and years, that is the idea for ADV riding.
When we're talking about service, it's very important to also talk about the cost of consumables. For example, after every 10,000 kilometers, you would want to change the brake pads, right? I use a EBC brake pads, which are like 11-12,000 for 3 pairs.
Right.
Is it the similar brake pad that you use for BMW or something else?
I am using the EBC as well.
Okay.
I did use BMW brake pads. They are very good, but of course they come with a cost.
Very good in terms of the bite or something else?
See, in terms of composition, that thing, the original BMW brake pads with the the calipers combined from the manufacturer itself, they come pretty handy. And BMWs generally, they are very famous for their braking capability. If you talk about 1000 RR in liter bikes, and if you talk about GS, their braking capability is very good.
Any other consumables that you normally have to spend on during a service? What does an air filter cost? What does an oil filter cost? Any specifics that you remember?
See, I have particularly been using a K&N filter myself. So K&N
So that is
filter,
about 8,000? Is that the one that you're using?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
yeah.
right. So 8 to 10,000 approximately.
I forgot to ask the $1 million question. What is the mileage?
Okay, the mileage for tarmac it's about 20 to 23. Yeah.
Riding at about 100?
No, riding at about 130 and 140.
130 also
Yeah.
20 to 23?
Yeah,
Okay, that's
20,
good.
20 approximately you can say.
So you're saying in
Around
bumper to bumper
18,
traffic, it will come
18,
down to 15,
18, 18, something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
And in traffic, do you feel the heat from the engine, considering
Yes.
it should be very close to your leg?
In comparison
popping
to
out?
in comparison to a LC model, certainly there's a because that's a liquid cooled and this is an air oil cooled system. So of course there's a heat, but there is not much heat. I have ridden GS in traffic in the Delhi conditions. Delhi we usually have around like 45, 46 in the summertime during this month, these months like June and stuff, May and June. So pretty much okay. The heat dissipates when you are on the move. The heat dissipates.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come that much. And moreover, these engines are exposed, so they get ventilated very easily.
Yeah, that is one positive side I see. I mean,
Told you that GS always falls down on an incline, and there is always an angle for you to pick it up.
Right.
So let me just show you how it will look once it falls down.
oh,
Okay, you have your handle locked over here. You need to put one hand over here, one hand over here, tuck yourself in, okay, and then there you go.
looked easy.
And then there it is.
One important thing we are yet to cover is the brand experience. BMW, the brand, is renowned, right? So I assume they will be treating all of its customers like gods. So, so what has been the reality for you? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it average? What do you feel?
Certainly not God's feel, but yes, BMW now, because earlier BMW was not present. After the BMW brand itself entered the Indian market and they launched their own dealerships, I think it's pretty much good. Still the parts with all the dealership, you can't think that you will get all the parts available. Even small things are available straight away in all the super biking dealership. That is not possible because Indian diaspora, Indian market for the ADV touring is not that big. But the experience, the support, I'll say BMW hands-on, they are very good. Yeah.
And I think community riding is also very good when you're associated with the BMW brand. That is
Yes.
what I feel from the outside, as an outsider.
Yes.
With the events, the GS Trophy, and all those
Yes.
off-roading workshops that they do regularly.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen those event videos for GS events, whatever happens. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Region-wise events that happen.
Right.
And I also feel like coming over for one of those events. So here is my question: can I come over without owning a BMW, or is it like just restricted to BMW owners?
Sometimes the dealership does enroll open kind of a GS experience where you can take their bikes. But particularly if you're talking about GS experience, GS training, and then GS Trophy, no, you
Okay.
cannot enter that.
Yeah. So
Right.
I think you have traveled a lot.
Right.
So,
So-
have you rented this before? Maybe outside India? What has been the experience like there?
See, I have been to multiple countries and I have done multiple tours. So particularly if you talk about BMW brand, you go to any country. If you want to rent a bike, GS is the first bike that any rental company will have. There are chances that Multistrada is not available. There are chances that Tiger might not be available, but GS is going to be there. 750, 850, 1200. You will get them at rental anywhere in the world.
I can totally vouch for that. I
Yeah.
was there in February in SFO, and I was actually wanting to hire maybe a Versys because I've ridden it a lot.
Right.
But I didn't get a Versys.
Right.
I had a Tiger at that time. I wanted to rent a Tiger. Tiger was not also available.
Yeah.
So only thing that I got was an 850 GSF. So BMW is always there. I have seen. Although
Yeah.
they cost a bomb
Yeah.
to rent also,
Right.
but availability is never an issue outside of India. I think overall, if you are in the long run with this machine, you are
Yeah.
in for the long haul.
Yes,
then
that's right.
I think everything averages out.
Right.
When you consider the overall experience, the
Right.
happiness that you get with the brand that you own, and the finesse that you get with the machine, right?
Right.
So the final question that I have, and it's I was thinking about it last night as well before I thought I'll do this sort of a discussion with you. What does one upgrade to after owning a 1200 GS, especially in the adventure touring category? Is there anything else that you aspire to own? There is not much left.
For me personally, I have fully committed myself to BMW.
Okay.
After riding for so many years and with different brands, I do not want to get out of this brand dealership, and I'm fully committed to a GS. So, but for me, I would certainly would want to upgrade to a GSA, which is an adventure model. It comes with a bigger tank capacity and a different suspension setup.
One has a 20-liter tank, right, or what?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
20, so maybe a range of around 300 kilometers, 350.
Yes.
That is a max.
340, 50, something like that, depending on how much average
So you
get
can
out.
basically do
that-
Tandi to Leh
See,
or
GSA,
whatever,
I've
right?
seen people doing 500, 600,
Okay.
so they don't have to stop anywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe just want to, as a charm.
Yeah.
I just want to, maybe one day I just want to upgrade myself to a GSA.
I think we have covered a lot.
Yeah.
Did we miss out on anything? I don't think so. But thank you for your time today. We are standing in the sun at 7 a.m. till 8 a.m. in the morning. So thank you for taking out time. I think
been
we
a
have
pleasure.
shared a lot of information with you guys. And if anyone of you wants to own a BMW 1200 or a 1250 GSA, I think we have provided a lot of information so that you can make an informed decision, and that was the endeavor. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, maybe share it and subscribe to the channel as well. See you in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye. So don't be lazy, guys. Hit the subscribe button. In fact, hit it right now. Takes a second. And in the comment section, let us know which motorcycle would you like me to review next.